Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our webinar. My name is Olesya Khromoychuk, and I'm the director of the Ukrainian Institute London. We are a center for Ukraine-related educational and cultural activities. Ukrainian Institute London is a registered charity, and we work to broaden knowledge about Ukraine in the UK and beyond by offering discussions and projects that explore Ukrainian history, culture, and current affairs. And I'd like to highlight that we are mostly funded through our events and donations, and events and donations, the events for which you purchase tickets and your donations enable us to run at least some of our events like today free of charge. So we'll be very grateful for any donations that you can make. We're really glad to be able to host this discussion at the Ukrainian Institute tonight. We try to raise issues that are very important both in Ukraine and internationally. And Crimea is certainly one of the topics which we need to continue drawing the attention of international community to. Recently, we hosted a discussion about the 7 years of occupation of Crimea. And if you missed it, you can watch the recording of that discussion on our YouTube channel. Again, you'll see the link in your chat in a minute. We are very glad that we can continue discussing some of these issues today with Nariman Aliev, whose film Homeward you can watch via the Institute's website until the 13th of June. And again, the link to our website will be in your chat. If you haven't seen the film, we highly recommend that you watch it. The director of the film will be introduced by our moderator in a minute, and I would like to introduce the moderator. Tonight's webinar will be moderated by Dr. Rory Finnin, who is University Senior Lecturer, Associate Professor in Ukrainian Studies at the University of Cambridge. He is the founding director of Cambridge Ukrainian Studies, former head of the Department of Slavonic Studies, and former chair of the Cambridge Committee for Russian and East European Studies. Rory has been a wonderful friend of the Ukrainian Institute for many years, and recently we collaborated on a short documentary film about Taras Shevchenko. And you haven't seen it, please watch it. Again, it's on our YouTube channel, and you'll receive the link soon. Crimea is one of Rory's particular passions, and so is cinema. So I can't imagine a better moderator for tonight's discussion. Rory, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Olesya. It is a real pleasure and an honor to participate in this webinar today. And I want to thank your entire team at the Ukrainian Institute London, as always, for your hard work, for your innovative and really exciting events, and for bringing Homeward, Evge, Dodomo, to British audiences through the 13th of June. And I would like to encourage everyone to absolutely consider supporting the Ukrainian Institute London with a donation whenever that's possible. We often talk about soft power, and we often link soft power to the idea of the state, but we as communities, as scholars, as artists, as audiences have a real role to play in this respect. So please do consider giving. Now, we use the term breakthrough film somewhat casually these days, but I think in this case with Evge, and I will be saying Evge just because it's a habit of mine. So Homeward really fits the bill, really fits the description of a breakthrough film. And I have no doubt that we will be talking about it for a long time to come. You know, it's 2021, and here we are 2 years after its release, sharing with audiences, trying to inform audiences of its significance. So that's very exciting. And I'm particularly thrilled and honored to chat with Nariman Aliev, whose work I really admire. Now, I've been asked to introduce him. Now, I could do this in a number of ways. I could give you a sense of his CV. I could list his degrees from the Karpenko-Kare National University of Theater, Film, and Television in 2013, 2014, where he worked with filmmakers and producers like Oleg Fialko, among others. I could list his distinctions, the awards given to his 4 films, accolades like the Crystal Bear at the Berlin Film Festival in 2016 for the short film Senses, Without You. I could, of course, mention, the selection for Un Certain Regard at Cannes in 2019 for Homeward, which is his feature film debut. But what I really want to do is introduce him by way of a comment made to me by a complete stranger in Odessa. It was 2019, and I was in attendance at the Odessa Film Festival, had recently seen Homeward, and a woman who had also just seen the film made eye contact with me for a moment and said something like, "Shtos tropilosya zimnoyu." Something happened to me, or something happened with me. For whatever reason, I didn't really reply to this comment, but I remember it really vividly because it seemed to me the greatest compliment a member of an audience could make to a director, that their film not only entertained or provoked the audience, but marked a kind of event, an event of experience, an event of something happening to us. Now, over the past year and a half, to say the least, a lot has happened to us all. With COVID lockdowns, quarantines, the loss of loved ones, and we hope everyone continues to stay safe, of course. So adaptation these days has become a central concern. And one of the ways in which, over the past year, our guest today, Nariman Aliev, has adapted very creatively, I think, is by launching a podcast called Min Kult Privit, which has a great strapline, Bez kulturno pro kulturu, which is something like an uncultured take on culture. It's a really highly recommended listen. I'll make sure that we get a link to you through the chat in a few moments. It's available on all podcast platforms. It's on YouTube as well. And if you're interested in Ukraine, if you're a student of Ukrainian culture, stop what you're doing, or at least stop what you're doing after we have this conversation, and be sure to subscribe. These are a series of conversations between Nariman and guests, guests like the playwright and filmmaker Natalia Vorozhbit, filmmaker and activist Oleg Sentsov, the great cultural activist and friend of Cambridge Ukrainian Studies, Nariman Aliev. So you really won't regret it. But one of, I think, Nariman's coolest guests, and I'm going to embarrass him here a little bit, and I hope he forgives me, was his mother, Khurjian Alieva. And I have to say to Nariman that your conversation with your mother prompted me to put down the laptop after your discussion and to give my own mother a call. So thanks for the gift of that connection, Nariman. So if you don't mind, I'd like to begin with her. Actually, I'd love to ask you a little bit about her. She's a remarkable individual. And I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about her return to Crimea after decades in Central Asia, just as a way of getting us started today.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hello, Rory. Thank you for your words. It's a big pleasure for me. If we will talk about my mother, my parents, who was born in deportation in Uzbekistan. So it's that generation who didn't see their homeland, that they don't have opportunity to be there, to grow up there, born up, I don't know, to have home there, because they don't have opportunity to get visit Crimea. And but it was that generation who will make it real to get back that Crimean Tatars nation from the deportation from Uzbekistan to Crimea. They get that real, because if my grandfathers and grandmother, of course, they wanted to go from the homeland, but there was in that age they can just take their bags and go back and buy some house, because most of them there was I don't know how in English, pensionere. There was retired. Was retired. Yes, and but that because that generation of people who was 30, 40 years old, and they never see their homeland. But when they will have opportunity to go back without nothing, without any permissions that they can go there, any opportunity to have a job, to have a house, but they go there. And in the 90s, like 200,000 Crimean Tatars was going back from the Crimea. It was a couple ways. And my mother and my father too, they was they forget everything what they will have in whole life in Uzbekistan, their career, their flats and houses, there's some kind understandable life what they have, for just a little opportunity and little chance to go back from homeland. And they did it. They did it and started everything for the mid, from the down. It's like I'm some like my father was 40 years when I was born, and my mother was 33. So there was man and woman. I don't know. There was grow up and everything, and they started in that time because I was born in Crimea. In that time, they started their life just one more time. They start to get new business, to build new house, and I feel it. I grew up in that situation. The whole my youth was in that feeling that we just started to do something, and I never see and I never know my parents like a young, and when they just celebrating their life and just doing what they want. I never see that. I see that my parents do it everything to somehow stay and to give me opportunity to not live like they was live, to have opportunity to grow up in homeland, to get opportunity to have that job that I want. And to do what I want, to be honest. And my mother listening all my some kind interviews or some like public talks, and this one she will be listening to. And yeah,
said hello.
Yes, and like 1 month ago, we was have like one conversation with my parents. It's like I wasn't in Crimea like maybe 2.5 or 3 years. After that, then I understand that my film will be going in the world. I will have to get some choose, because I can't to just show and film and just not to talk about themes about Russian, about occupation, accusation, about the war. I can't just doing the same like I need to say the words that how it is. So after that, I wasn't in Crimea. So and now with this quarantine, all this stuffs, it was like with mother must to came to Kiev like in the next week, and we don't see each other like mostly 1 year. So for us, it's very long time. Yeah. And we was have a conversation. She asked, why everyone want to bring their parents from the Kiev to get to leave them there, but you don't want it. And I said that that's like a sentence that, because I want to go back to Crimea, I don't want to take you to Kiev. I want to have opportunity to go back. So it's I don't know how it used it, but it's some kind with this in this grow up in this situation understandable in the when you have more age and more grow up and this feeling nostalgia, what I was understanding when I was like going from the Crimea to Kiev, but now I really understand that. And you try to understand your roots, to try to understand where you're from, why you're from, and who you are. It's like that questions who I try to like about what I try to talk about in my works. Because honestly, I'm in that situation when I just think about it a lot and to trying to understand and to take my place in this world. Because it's strange. It's strange situation because like 7 years now we have after annexation of Crimea, and I feeling how that my relatives, my friends who was stay in Crimea, they have their own life, they have own reality, and I here have my reality, and I can say that I'm like Ukrainian. And I can say now that I'm like a Crimean Tatar. In all situation, I'm something like feeling that I'm a stranger in whole situation, and some kind I'm the some kind bro in the situation, some kind stranger. And for me, in this feeling, I tried. I think a lot about that, and with my parents, I tried to talk about this too. And for them, I'm really grateful that I was have opportunity to born in my homeland, and I really believe that I will have opportunity to like go back and stay there, like in another part of my life.
I hope so too. Yeah, I hope so too. You mentioned in another conversation that I think it was in 2006. You received a formal document that had your Ukrainian citizenship on it, that testified that you were a citizen of Ukraine. And this meant a lot to you. Can you describe that?
Yeah, it was 1996. I was 4 years old. And yes, it was the papers that was received that my family is citizens of Ukraine, because before that my parents were citizens like Uzbekistan, USSR, and they came came to Ukraine, and their USSR was like nowhere, and there was in not expectable status. But I don't understand that feeling, but when we was like, it was like a four papers for me, my brother, my father and mother, and I don't know why, but I really was it's something big in my life, you know. I don't know how to explain, because I was really young and I don't really understand what is this citizen, and I don't understand who I am, and who I am, like a Crimean Tatar, and who is this Ukrainian in Ukraine Ukraine country, you know. But it's some kind like marker that now you are in our like a big family. It's some kind was listening for me this type. And I remember how I was crying when my neighborhood girlfriend was some kind painted in that list with paints, and I was pissed off about that. But yes, it was for me like I think with the psychotherapist I must talk about that a lot.
Yeah, you should get a new one. You get a new one. You also mentioned, even in your discussion with your mother and in other discussions, that as a child you had what you called complexes. Can you talk about what that meant to you as a child?
Because you're feeling it's like Crimea in 90s, and even now it's a place where nobody how to say nobody believed that you are from Crimea, that it's your land. Let's talk like that. This this mythology about Russian Crimea, it was very powerful there, and you feeling like a stranger there, you know, because you even not have like you feeling like you're a very small nation. And don't have a lot of people. So feeling that when in one class you have like 5 Crimean Tatars and 25 people like Russian and Ukrainians, you don't understand why you're doing here. Why you don't speak with your language, why do you talk about your history, why do you talk about you, why, and everybody to see like you, like a stranger who must be here, you know. And of course it was complex because you're feeling you're different, and nobody can explain when I was a kid why. Yeah, but I feeling that I was different, and I nothing can do with that, you know. It's not about my even physical stuff. It's like some kind of status who I have, and I not even choose this, you know. But about now about tolerance, we talk about a lot of things, and yes, tolerance, about racism, everything, because people don't choose this, though that can be reason to say people he is different or something like that, or no. Yeah, but of course when you're a kid and when you understand who you are and you friend, you have a complex.
So you are growing up in this extraordinary situation between a lot of different worlds at a very difficult time. 1990s in particular were very challenging. Discussions of secession in Crimea until the mid 1990s. You have a case of Crimean Tatar communities coming to the peninsula, not being given accommodation, no place to live, not given civil status, their rights. So I'm interested in film entering your life at this time. So did film, did art, did culture help you make sense of this situation in some way? How did that work for you as someone growing up, coming of age at this time?
No, it's like I was some kind of shy kid, and I was that time was we was have the opportunity to buy some that unlicensed DVD with different films, and for me it was some kind I start watched a lot of films, a lot of different films, and it's not was the start about like to be like to want to be an artist or something filmmaker. It's in that time where I was looking a lot of stories for a different world with different people, and some kind there was wychowanie. I don't know how to say in English. It was
upbringing.
What?
Upbringing?
Yeah. Upbringing me like in my life, because that books that we have like in the school, they don't learn us how to be together in life. So a lot of things it was like from the film, and for me the most like emotional and the broken part of my life film. It was Leon Killer, Luc Besson. Because it was so gentle and about simple and about some kind of pure love between two people. It's not about like a little girl and a big killer. It's like about two people, And for me, it was some kind of honest emotion. And when you grow up in little village in the peninsula Crimea in the Ukraine, in the start of 21st century, when in Ukraine none of film was making, there isn't have Ukrainian movies or like it's the industry. You can't even imagine that you will be like imagine that you will be like doing films or something, like going to Cannes, or you have a big like a premieres. It's not rational like idea in your mind, and in my way it was not rational too, because I was like one girl in my school who was very beautiful voice, and she was like a good singer, and she said that she going to Kiev to go study in the opera singing. And I said, wow, yeah, I'm going to Kiev to study directing. And I said, oh, yeah, yes. Yep. I will be a big star in the, in the cinema. I said, oh, great. We'll have opportunity to have meet each other there. Yes. I said, yes. And that day I came to my home. It was like a couple months before graduation in school. I said, I wanted to be a director. My parents look at me like about crazy guy and say, okay, but if you want, why not? If you want to, we will do that for you. And I even don't understand. I even don't know what is this director. I don't know what to do director. I know why I want to be director, because I was not too much, beautiful to be an actor. So, so it's like that. Film in my life to get started, the big one, it's like a unsuspect. I don't suspect that cinema will have a very big part in my life.
So the big question is, did you see this girl from school ever again who went to do opera in Kiev? Did you see her again?
Yeah, of course I see. She's my friend, but it's just one hook to give opportunity to go there. But it's not about love story. It's about the story how you must to get this one step, because you will have in that moment that feelings, and it's another story of your life, and she has her own story, and in this way the life is very interesting stuff that you don't know what to do with what will be with you in the future. Everything can going very understandable like ways.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful story of a happy accident, and I personally had a happy accident as a younger person. I was part of the Peace Corps, the U.S. Peace Corps program, and I was supposed to go to Fiji. And so I got prepared to go to Fiji. I was going to be a teacher in Fiji, and at the last minute before I was to take this flight to Fiji, they said, sorry, Rory, would you actually go to Ukraine instead? And so I was 22. I didn't care where I went. And so I went to Ukraine, and that changed my life. So I know what you mean about these little accidents and connections that we all have. That's really fascinating. But well done to your friend for somehow encouraging you to envision your life in the future as a director, because you picked the right profession, Nariman.
I hope so.
I want to get to talk about the film, and I do feel like I want to make sure that the audience understands, if they've seen the film or haven't seen the film, a little bit of what Nariman mentioned earlier with respect to his parents, with the experience of the Crimean Tatars after Stalin's deportation in May of 1944 to Uzbekistan. So for decades, the Crimean Tatar people confronted the Soviet regime for the right to return to Crimea, and that right was given to them in the very late 1980s. And so that's a backdrop to this film that's very important, but it's also important to say that this is a very human film, that that Crimea is part of the picture, but it's not the entire picture. And I do think the emotional connection we all have with the characters that you give us, Nariman, and with the story of father and son, of family, of connection to home, all of these things are themes that we can relate to and connect to. But I've also seen in showing the film here in Britain. So I screened the the film at the Cambridge Film Festival in 2019. And a lot of people came up to me asking lots of questions about the experience of these characters. So I thought maybe what I could do here, for those who perhaps haven't seen the film yet, or for those who have and want to rewatch a bit of it again, I thought maybe I could show the trailer and we can talk a little bit about the film. But I don't want us to leave these themes of family behind, because I think they're really important to your own story as a filmmaker and as a storyteller. So why don't I share the screen and show this trailer? So we'll just take a moment and watch this. Let's see if I can do it. Okay. A really effective trailer, actually, in many ways. And I think that that line that is delivered by Alim's uncle in the film is a beautiful one. Biz özümge karek olmasak kimge karek? Who will need us if we don't need each other? That has a lot to say about our connection as members of family, of members of national communities. It seemed like a really central moment in that film, and it was nice to see it in this version, in this trailer. I'm very interested in how you wrote this script with your collaborative screenwriting partner, Mauricia. Yes.
Yeah.
How did you compose it? How was language used in this script? Because there's a great deal of Crimean Tatar. This is a historic film for the very simple reason that Crimean Tatar is a language we hear consistently in the film. And by my lights, it's the first film in world cinema that features the language in this way. So how did you write the film using that language, using Ukrainian? Can you talk to us a little bit about language itself as a character in the film?
Yes, thank you for this question, because for me, like, language is very important instrument in my cinema. Not everyone can really feeling this instrument, but it's really important that the instrument that I try to weigh how to use it, because how we said about that before, that I was born and grow up in some kind of difficult situation when my language was Crimean Tatar language, who, to be honest, I just understand, but I can't talk. I don't know my language. That was Russian speaker community in the Crimea, but I was in Ukraine, where Ukrainian language, it's like a language of the country, how it must be. Yes, so I was living in like a multi-language situation, because television was in Ukraine. My people who was around me, my friends was Russian speakers, and my family and my relatives was speaking Crimean Tatar. And in the film, I tried to use it, that languages too, because for me it's important how to make some end borders and to get that borders. Yes, because for the father who speak in the Crimean Tatar and the Russian, he don't know Ukrainian language, because he was come back to Crimea in the 80s when he was like a grown man, and he don't have opportunity to learn Ukrainian language. And in Crimea, nobody even ask it to you in Ukraine. You even don't heard Ukrainian language. So when he came to like a mainland Ukraine, of course he can't speak with the people in Ukraine. He speak a Russian language, but with his son he speak only in Crimean Tatar language, because for him it's important that his kid will speak with him Crimean Tatar. And another way we see he's a young son who's like 17, 18 years old, who just started to study in the university, who start to speak Ukrainian, because he was having school Ukrainian, and he have a television Ukrainian. After this situation, what happened in Maidan, he's feeling like he's a better Ukrainian. No, it's like his part of the life. It's a part of his history. And he speak with the word in Ukrainian, and with the father he speak in Crimean Tatars. Yes, and in that, like that's like 3 points give me opportunity to give these borders further, and to give my characters alone, even if they have a lot of people with them, and to be alone a father with a lot of people when he start to speak in Russian with them. So it's an interesting instrument, but unfortunately, when you don't know Russian, Ukrainian, Crimean, Tatar, for you, of course, to harder to understand all this situation in the film. But I wanted in my next project use this instrument too, try to work with the different languages and to show it that the different people are, because language is very important part of the each one nation. Yeah, and we now in Ukraine feeling this a lot. Even in Ukraine, I in my life I a Russian speaker, but in the public I like a couple years talk only in Ukrainian language, because I feel and understand that the Ukrainian language is very important part of the Ukraine country and nation. Yes, and for me, if in Ukraine we don't have this powerful Ukrainian language, we don't have opportunity to talk about Crimean Tatar language, who very important for me. So for me, it's like a one step to get another step about my language, about my native language, to have opportunity to that, like kids from the school and the people in Crimea will have opportunity to get to learn it, Crimean Tatar language, and talk about Crimean Tatar language. And for me, it was my position. This one, people little bit lazy in their life, and they don't want it to read it subtitles and a lot of some people thought, why you do it in the Crimean Tatar language? Just have double it in Ukrainian language, because we don't want to read it subtitles and want. For me, it was very important that people heard that the Crimean Tatar language was about, it's like a native nation of Ukraine, and you don't have opportunity to hear their language. And for me, it was important. And how you said that, yes, not very a lot. We have like a cinema in Crimean Tatar language, and for me, it was very important. That feeling in the premiere in the can, it's not about like my debut film there. And for me, it was like a feeling like a nervous that the first time Crimean Tatar language will be in like a big stage and the big cinematography festival will heard it. And this is one was important for me. So I hope I get answered about your question, because I forgot.
Yeah, very, very well answered too. And I sometimes think back to that comment that this woman made to me on the way out of the theater, saying "Що трапилося зі мною?" Sometimes, and I've heard this from Ukrainian colleagues and friends, that they acquired a kind of connection to Crimean Tatar language through the film, and it surprised them. That they hadn't heard it before. And of course, as you said, they identify with this idea of a language that is not taught as much, that has been suppressed in various ways throughout the centuries. And I thought maybe what I could do is show a scene in which, as you said, the 3 points of these different languages come together, or at least 2 of them. This is the scene in the car, where Alim, who's played by your cousin Remzi Biryalov, who is terrific in the film, of course, and he's also in Sensiz, your short film of 2016. this is a scene and a discussion that begins with him saying in Ukrainian, "Цей тиждень буде довгий." This week will be long. Prior to this point, they're speaking in Crimean Tatar, and then Alim switches. And one of the things I want to make clear to our British audience, our international audience, is the interesting way in which language can function in Ukraine. Not only, I think the story people are often told is that there is a Russian-speaking part of the country and a Ukrainian-speaking part of the country, and then perhaps a community of Crimean Tatar speakers, but actually that there is a multilingualism that is very much a part of the everyday life of the country. And in this scene, Alim and Mustafa are speaking to each other across these different languages, but they don't need translation. So Mustafa understands Alim's Ukrainian, of course, but they're talking about the most intimate things in their lives, about future, about family tradition, about Crimea. So I'll show this scene for our viewers. That's a really powerful scene. And again, just to make clear to audience members who may not understand Ukrainian or Crimean Tatar, that Mustafa is speaking in Crimean Tatar and Alim in this scene in Ukrainian. This notion of життя не буде в Криму, Alim looking to the future and not seeing a future for himself there. Did that have a kind of autobiographical reference to yourself? I mean, to your own situation? How do you feel about a future in Crimea?
You know, it's always question. It's always question that I never can understand the answers. And sometimes it will be future. Sometimes for me, it not will be future. It's like a feeling in your inside, no? Because why after annexation, a lot of the mostly Crimean Tatars stay that in the Crimea, because they do it a lot of to get opportunity to go back, and for them it's not to выход, exit.
Yeah.
It's not the exit to just going from the Crimea, from the Russian occupation. No, they're doing everything to go back and stay there. And for them, they have just Crimea. From the generation of the people, Alim, they have the whole Ukraine. They're feeling that whole Ukraine their home in some kind. When you know. You're feeling this, but what I said about my situation, you don't understand where you are. You're here not to be honest, and there not to be honest, and you don't understand. And for him, not the future can be future. Of course, for him, it's not the future because he was born in the independent Ukraine. He don't know what is a deportation. He don't know what is Soviet Union. For him, there is no future. From his father, who was born in deportation in the Middle Asia, in Uzbekistan, and going back to the Crimea, started again his life, and he get his house, he get his home, get his family. And for him, this is his future. And he don't care about the Russians. He don't care about the what country will be. He's in his home, in his homeland, and everything what he want to stay there. You know, because he do it a lot of for this, and they have just when we talk about this scene. It's very simple scene, and with a very simple situation, because we have two frames, and one frame's dad, and second frame son, and we never see them in one frame. They separated within the frames. They separated in the languages. They separate even in the thoughts. It's very simple scene with this conflict. It's the scene about this is generation conflict what they have. And of course, in my autobiographic, no, it's like it's not autobiographic. It's sometimes weigh to the views, you know, because I try to build this young generation, this old generation. They have different thoughts, but it's like it's middle size of this, their thoughts and understandable of what they're happening, you know. I just try to in the whole my film, it's about communication, about the understandable each other. Because for me, I don't have like a protagonist in my film. Each this way I understand. Each this way I believe what they believe. But the whole film, I tried that this is two person start to listen each other and listen and understandable each other, why they're thinking about like that. And when in the start of the film, that father Mustafa, he's feeling very bad person. And but for me, it was like a challenge to make like a bad person to understandable why you feeling he's bad. He has own reason to be like that. Yes, and in the end of the film, he's like a lot of people have this empathy for the father, first of all, for the father, because some kind of understandable his reasons to react like that. And of course, it's not оправдывает. Okay, it's not
justifies.
Yeah, what he do, but the people, but the audience start to just a little bit more understandable this character, and the stories start to be for them like in other way going, and for Iraq and for empathy.
So we've talked a bit about Mustafa and his journey, and Akhtan Seitablayev, who is a really well-known movie star in Ukraine, shows this arc of the father's journey beautifully. And as I mentioned, your cousin Ramzi is brilliant in the film too. As someone who is not a professional actor, he holds his own with Akhtem beautifully, and you can feel this relationship between them. I'm interested as well because the figure of Nazim is the reason why the story begins, right? So he's of a generation, well, similarly of Alim's generation, but older. And he makes a decision, of course, to fight in the war in Donbass, to defend the Ukrainian state against Russian-led, Russian-backed militants. What I think is important for our viewers to understand is how a father and a son can make such different choices with respect to this allegiance to Ukraine and this notion of being a citizen of Ukraine. What kind of backstory does Nazim have here? Alim is interested in pursuing journalism, but Nazim had been affected by a relationship with his girlfriend, Olesya, who were about to be married. So I find that relationship fascinating between the two brothers. One of them is absent. And this is something you've also focused on in your short film, Senses, of a brother who's been lost and the journey of a brother or two brothers to remember him. How important was it to craft a character like Nazim for you to showcase the two characters of Mustafa and Alim?
Yes, it's to be honest, it's very important was character who I was just thinking about him, but even now I don't know, I don't have all the answers about his characters, and that because I don't show it in the film a lot about him, because it can be like in different ways, because even now I don't know who was Nazim in the war. He was a soldier, or he was a medic, or he was a volunteer. I don't know, because for me, I have some like a pacifistic ways to use, and I don't want to have a soldiers like who try to kill someone else. Right. So for me, I see he was like he just try to help. He don't try to get work. He just want to try to help but this is in my head, what I was having questions in my head about this difference between the father and his young brother. It's different a lot because they have in my universe they have like a 10 years old between young brother, and it's a lot because the brother remembered this 90s when they just came to Crimea, and their anger about him and from the people who was living Crimea, and he remember Pomerancheva revolution of 2004. He remembered how it was, and for him he was have more steps to get to start to be like a Ukrainian, because for him, he don't want to be in that situation. I will say like that. Was his war too, because for generation of Father Mustafa, honestly, it's not his war, because he's feeling how he's like a stranger here. He always tried to get back and said, it's my homeland. Everybody said, no, go way back here. So for him, Ukrainians, Russians, it's not his family, not his nation, And what they have, it's their war. They must do everything what they want, but not. It's not mine. But for his son, it's his war, And in this part, is you feeling this difference of generations, yes? Because if his father, it was important to just go back in homeland. For his son, it's important to not just be in the homeland. It's to be in the citizen country and have a community of what they wanted, the world, what they want to see. What about was Maidan 2014? About ideas, about the feelings, about the wanting to have another civilization, another thought of civilization, not about Soviet Union, not about like a pro-European, how we say it, but it's about the tolerance, it's about dignity and all this stuff. And for him, he don't have a way to just to say, okay, now we will live in in the Russian occupation situation. No, it was his war too. So yes, for him, it's was the step to go from the home and this step when his son leaving his home, it's betrayed. It's betrayed. Right. So of course they will have a conflict, a big conflict. Because the son betrayed his father, his home, his relatives, his country, his homeland, everything. He's betrayed in some way,
The word betrayal is never used, but you can see it in Mustafa's face, particularly when he's looking for the Quran in Olesia's flat, and it's hidden. And that betrayal is really visible, but it's not explicitly described.
Yeah, it's all about that he's understandable. His son was in other, in other life. He had, and the same with the young brother, when he must to some kind choose what to do it. And some kind of father understand too. It will be good if his sons will be in the Kiev, yes. But he can just how to say, but how it's a little bit cynical. When the son died, the father said, "I was right. Why you do that? You was died. I right. I was right, he was wrong, you know. And in first reaction of him, but the whole way of the father, he just the whole story about just how the father want to, you know, reunion his family.
Yeah,
he broke his family and tried somehow kind reunion. He don't know how. He don't know what to do. He understand it's like it's everything. It's a bad idea, but he tried to do something right in his mind, and for his mind, it's right to go back from the home. You know. So
this is what makes your film, I think, so universal. And all of us have these relationships with our parents, their aspirations and dreams for us, their connections to the historical past, their connections to culture and tradition, their desire to keep it together. It's really important and something we all can identify with. I want to encourage our viewers to post questions to the Q&A box, and I don't want to occupy too much time with Nariman myself, but I have many, many questions. But one question I want to ask you before we open up to our audience is how Mustafa and Alim encounter a lot of officials of the Ukrainian state. So you have the director at the morgue at the beginning of the film. You have the police, the border guards, and no one seems to express a great deal of empathy or sympathy for the loss that they're suffering. But there is a moment where they are given a little understanding by the two police officers who decide not to press Mustafa once they find these Russian license plates in his car. And Mustafa says to them about living in today's Crimea, "Думаете так просто всё?" Do you think it's also easy? I'm really interested in how this film, how your film has helped, particularly Ukrainian audiences, think about the situation in Crimea outside of these boxes, outside of this black and white thinking. Has the film contributed to some understanding about the situations that residents in Crimea face today? Has it helped, do you think, Ukrainian audiences see things in more shades of gray about the occupation rather than black and white?
Someone yes, someone no, because the people see what they want to see. You know, some Ukrainians can say that my film it's like Ukrainophobic. Russian said my film Russian-phobic. Crimean Tatar said it's like Crimean Tatars very like not very good people in your film. You know, it's like but the mostly people, of course, they some kind of feeling about that situation that these people feeling like they are strangers. And they don't feeling that like they don't feeling that it's their country, their country too, you know. And it's in the details. It's you feeling this in the details. And for me, not that I'm like you know, when the Ukrainian audience saw the film, I said, "Oh, what we're doing?" No, it's not about that. It's about that. For me, very important that the question about Crimea must be in the air. You know, we must talk about that. We don't must forget about that. The big percent of people, they you know they say no, like in their feelings that, oh yeah, unfortunately Crimea was gone. Oh. About that. I always said about that when they say, oh, you're thinking Russian will give Crimea back, you are silly or what. I always said about that my relatives, my parents, my grandparents was in the deportation most 40 years. And they every day knowing that when they will have opportunity, they go back to the Crimea. This fate it's the most important in this situation when you don't know what to do. But when you believe that can be that can be, it will be, you know, and it's important stuff. So my film, I hope, is like one of the that's grace for the people to just thinking about that, to remember about that, and not to just cut it from their lives, you know, just to stay it with your heart. You don't must to go to get word to some like packets, but believe in that way that will be get return to the Crimean one day.
Побачимось в Бахчисараї наступного року. I think the message of your film is, as I said, universal, but it also does help Western audiences, British, American, Canadian, European audiences, keep Crimea in the forefront of our attention, because, as you say, it has been forgotten. This amnesia about Crimea is a big problem, and I'm so pleased that your film, in touching upon this universal story that we can all connect to emotionally, still keeps the question of Crimea at the forefront of our attention. Now, I think I'd really like to open up questions to our audience, and I understand that Marina has a question. So, Marina, if you're there, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Greetings from Kiev, actually. I'm in Ukraine right now. I would like to say that I was absolutely delighted to be involved into unveiling Nariman's film in London in 2019. And I remember that day very vividly, and also how warmly Akhtem Seytablayev, who came to London for a day, was greeted by the London audience. I really loved the film. I watched it twice. And my question would be about the female representation in the film, because you have 3 female characters and they are all Ukrainian, and you have 2 major Crimean Tatar male characters. So there seemed to be this kind of tension, and as I would describe, a sense of anxiety that the father feels towards Ukrainian women who steal his sons. You also have very strong female characters like Olesya, who also chases Alim by the phone and instructs him not to listen to his father, and things like this. So I wondered why this tension, particularly along the gender lines, and how does it fit into a wider kind of tension, losing Crimean identity in this kind of Ukrainian sea, if you wish. Thank you.
Okay, I will try to get answered. In the Variety review about my film said that I am, xenophobic about the woman, because my film, they're like weak or they're like they're that I hate the women in my film. No, it's not. It's mostly about it's the conflict what they have in that way. That's we have characters, 3 characters, Ukrainian women. Yes, it's true, because we have males characters in film. Because in the Crimean Tatars, it's very patriarchal. Some like a community. Yeah, in that way that it's very hard for now to imagine that the daughter will be some kind in that conflict with the father. It's very hard to understandable, and in my feelings, when I grow up, I always see like a father must to get this choice, to make this choice, and to be honest, the one Crimean Tatar woman who must be, she was died about them. We said about the mother, she even not existed. about that conflict with the Ukrainian women, about the father Mustafa. It's not about they Ukrainian. It's about they not Crimean Tatars. Yes, for father. This conflict with him. He don't care. It will be Ukrainian, Crimean Tatars, Polish, Americans. For him, in his world, the only way to save his family and his nation to be inside their community, you know. And if you will have some, go out from community, you will lose it. And to be honest, it's do like that. A lot of Crimean Tatars was, how to say, I forget in all languages this world, all words. Yes. When we're feeling even with Ukrainian this stuff, when you have some like problems, okay, you have a problems, you're feeling that you little bit weaker, you can't have power to get fight in the right steps, you start to be conservate, you started conservating inside it. The same what was in Crimean with the Crimean Tatars. The whole way in the deportation, there was just conservation inside it, and they just tried to not to just they just tried to just existing. When they came back to Crimea after this 20 years, it was some kind the just first steps to get from this outside of this, they're like I don't know, anger, but they have annexation, and now the people again start to conservating inside, because they very scary about that. Scary about that if there will be have like an opening, there will be destroying, you know. And this situation with the Ukrainian women, it's not about that there are Ukrainians. It's about they're not Crimean Tatars. It's about that.
Right. And in your short film, Seni Sevem, I Love You, features two fathers, one Crimean Russian, presumably perhaps Ukrainian, and Crimean Tatar, who both kind of work together to sabotage a connection between a Crimean Tatar protagonist and his beloved Masha. So in many ways, it's the fathers who are the ones interfering and stopping the younger generation from flourishing. I have a wonderful question from Yuri Su, who is a scholar of film and has written a brilliant paper on Vuvku, Nariman, actually. So he had a question for you, and I hope it's okay if I relay it to you.
Yeah.
He said, thanks for the great movie. Could you share a little bit about your training in filmmaking at Karpenko Kare? I'm myself very interested in your influences when you were studying at university.
To be honest, I was studying the 4 years. I was finished Karpenko Karo just with the baccalaureate. No, not baccalaureate, just magister diploma, magister diploma. Yes, baccalaureate. I don't know how the English baccalaureate.
Bachelor's.
Yes, this word.
Yes.
I was learning. I was studying in another university. It was private university, Institute of Cinema Arts, Screen Arts, but it's not existing anymore. When I finished that, I was just like a study 1 year in Karpenko Kare, but it's we have some kind of problem, of course, with education in Ukraine. It's not just with cinematography. what my master, my teacher, Oleg Fialko, who was teaching me like 4 years in the first university, he was helping me like with a very simple ideas. What they say to me, first of all, he said to me, talk about what you know. Don't try to go in the world when you never was. Just talk about what you're feeling, what you're talking. It's hurt very easy, but to be honest, 3 years of my education, I can understand about what he wanted about me, what they know about what I know. But it's very important, and I was have like it's like now we have opportunity to get a lot of. I don't know. I was shooting in my phone like 20 works, very shit one, but it get me practice to do everything what I wanted, you know, and I just tried to something to do it. And the first 3 years, it doing everything what you can do it, everything what you wanted. And then you try to understand how it worked. When I go in to study directing, I don't understand nothing about that. I don't understand who is director, what must to do director, what is montage, everything. I don't understand about this. And practice, and of course, this you must read, watch, and practice everything. I think it's for any professional good advice. Read about that, watch about that, and practice. If you something not will be doing in this time, you will be not good professional.
It's good advice, and it's also good to have a very supportive family. So I know that your family was a really professional and affordable crew on many of your projects, and so much respect to them. We're really grateful for their support of you, and let's continue with some questions from the audience. And if Robert, if you're available, please pose your question to Nariman.
Hello?
You're on mute, Robert, I believe.
No, not mute, but we don't hear you.
Well, if Robert, maybe you can try once more, Robert. If not, I'm happy to pose your question. Unfortunately, I can't hear you. Nariman, can you hear him?
I don't hear it too, sorry.
Well, his question is a great one. I hope you don't mind, Robert, if I try. For whatever reason, technically, we're having some difficulties, and nice to see you. How has the film been received by Crimean, Tatar, and Ukrainian audiences? You alluded to some Ukrainians saying it's Ukrainophobic, which is absurd, and you mentioned that Crimean Tatars had their own reactions. Could you talk a little bit more about those different responses?
To be honest, the most of Crimean Tatars don't see it because they don't have an opportunity to watch it. We don't have like a legal way to streaming film in Crimea. Just from you, for me, it's like I don't want to buy my film to Russia. So for me, it's like it's unpredictable. But in Ukraine, it's very hard to like streaming film in Crimea. But some kind people, of course, see it. But it's very hard because their informations. There another information in Crimea. Even a lot of people, I think they don't know about that film. About Ukrainian audience, we tried all our best that the people have opportunity to see it. Now they can't watch in no form in Ukraine. We will have a cinema theater release, everything. It was not brilliant for the thousands of people, but the mostly people, yes, this what you said about that universal story. I think it's true because people understand what about it. And through this emotional and empathic story, they try to understand a little bit more about Crimean Tatars. The same stuff with people out the border. The people in different countries, the mostly of them don't know nothing about the Ukrainian Crimea, but they see story what they have touched about the touching story for them, and after that they start to just research what is this, who they are, why it's happening. This context film that people start to searching. Like a couple days ago, I watched a brilliant film, like a Bosnian film about that horrible situation in Srebrenica in the 90s. And I heard about it. Of course, it's like a big tragedy of the whole Europe and the world, what's happening there. And I was watching with my friend, and she even don't heard about that. But after the film, she researched it. So for me, the film, it's one of the steps to get one of the push to get people knowing a little bit more, because the cinema, it's not that instrument who will be explaining to you. It's not about explaining. It's about emotional. It's about the like storytelling, yes. But if you're doing your job good, I really believe that people will get this one step more to know about it. And yeah,
I sorry to interrupt you. I just can speak to this point through my own personal experience, because there have been films that feature Crimean Tatars like Mamai, by Oles Sanin, and of course Khaytarma by Akhtem Setablayev, of course. Your film, I think, because of what we've been discussing today, is this really universal message about family that we can all connect to, has really prompted a lot of exploration about the history of course, the Crimean Tatar deportation, but also, as you said before, refreshing everyone's memory about what the occupation has meant for so many people, how many difficult in-between spaces they're living in right now. We have a number of other questions, and I want to make sure we try to get to almost all of them here. There's one question about, and I'll read it to you here, Nariman. As an integral nation to modern Ukraine, what duty does the Ukrainian state owe to Crimean Tatars to promote Tatar culture, history, and language in the country as a whole? So what is the responsibility of the Ukrainian state to support Ukrainian culture? This was the question.
To be honest, it's not the systematic, some kind of supporting. It's a problem for us because like the whole, all these years, we are trying to work that the Ukraine was, how to say, recognize that Crimea is Crimean Tatar nation autonomic of Crimea. Yeah, to get like that get in the constitution that Crimean Tatars is a native people of Ukraine, which we're trying to work with that. But to be honest, with good steps, with they get the strategy with the work with the language, Crimean Tatar language for the 2032. They want to try to make opportunity to people have a learning Crimean Tatar language, to get supported for the literature, cinema, or all this stuff or media for the Crimean Tatar. From political stuff, it's a little bit now harder because if Donbass, people from Donbass, it's electorate, because how we know, like the more than 1 million people from the Lugansk and Donetsk live in the Ukraine, in the control land of Ukraine. from the Crimea, it's not a lot of the people who get electorate, who, you know, not political, don't really don't have electorate about that. So they even nothing said about that because nobody voted about that. You know, so it's a problem. It's a problem because for me, the question about the Crimea and Donbass, it's one question. It's not two different questions. It's one question. And for me, question about Crimea and Donbass, it's a question of the dignity. Yes, of the dignity of Ukrainian nation, first of all. Yes, because I really believe that if Ukrainian nation wanted to be like a union, they must to fighting for each one of us who believe in Ukraine and supported Ukraine, each one of us. If we try to say, okay, in this way we have a good Ukrainians, in their way we have a bad Ukrainians, we'll never have a union. We don't have this is strong nation. And this is question about Donbass and Crimea. It's about dignity. It's a question about dignity, and we must talk about that. We must to listen. Not forget about that. Just because it's old. It's after that. If we will forget Crimea and Donbass, it's the first steps to destroying and country and national and some kind chance to good future. It's for me.
It's really well said, Nariman. And I do want to emphasize, I think, how your film connects with international audiences because of this. One of the questions in the chat is about this international resonance and whether EVGA is a good way to bring Western audiences into a discussion about Ukraine and Ukraine's dignity as a state, as a nation. And I absolutely do believe it does. And it's a tremendous credit to you as a filmmaker that it can do so many things, that, you know, you reach us at the level of family, but also you are showing us a way or direction, a trajectory that Ukraine is on, which is extremely exciting. That is, Crimean Tatars such as yourself are shaping this evolving national identity in Ukraine. You started off this conversation mentioning how sometimes you feel, let's say, in between. So what is the relationship of your Ukrainian identity with your Crimean Tatar identity? One of the things I'm beginning to see is how Crimean Tatar identity and culture is informing how Ukrainians perceive themselves. It's changing slowly, but it's a very remarkable thing for Europe to witness, this small Crimean Tatar Muslim minority helping to shape the national identity of the largest country in Europe. And your film has a big role to play in that respect. I know we don't have that much time left. I know others have questions, and if I've not gotten to people, I do apologize. But one thing, of course, I want us to ask before we go is to ask you about your future projects. I mean, I'm speaking to someone who the Kyiv Post mentions was, you know, top 30 under 30. So what's next for Nariman Aliev, and outside of a terrific podcast, what's next? What are you working on next?
To be honest, I changed like a free script plate for the 2 years. So now I work again about this with the script, with the story. I don't talk about what is about it because I don't know it will be that screenplay what I will be shooting or not. But I understand that I tried about another themes, but now I wanted to go back about Crimean Tatar theme because I understand it's the theme that I really have I really have something to say, and I understand about this, and it's really, first of all, for me, important theme. Yes, so if everything will be good and we will have a support and find the opportunity to make next project, it will be project about the Crimean Tatar too.
Well, like you said, your mentor, Oleg Fialko, speaking about doing what you know. Yes. It's very good advice, but also I think there's such a great opportunity for all of us to learn more about the Crimean Tatar experience. And I do want to, now that we've come to the end of our time, on a personal level, thank you for a film that meant a great deal for me as someone fascinated by the Crimean Tatars. You brought a lot of voices to my attention that I think I was waiting to hear for some time. And it's a remarkable achievement. We wish you a great deal of success. And we look forward to the next time we can talk together, hopefully in person, when we can screen your films again. So with that, I will say thank you, Nariman. Lovely to see you. Lovely to talk.
Yeah, thank you. It was a very big pleasure to have this chat with you. Thank you very much.